you to have the self-esteem of getting up and earning and having that title of American. He'd rather you be his slave and be economically dependent upon him.
And joining me now with more, the man you just heard from, Florida Congressman Colonel Allen West. Congressman, welcome back, sir.
Thanks so much for having me on, Sean.
All right, you know when you say that, Social Security disability is slavery, a lot of people pay into that their entire lives, agree or disagree with the program. A lot of people say, wait a minute, that's my money. I paid into this. That was the assurances that were given me.
Well, there's something different between Social Security and Social Security disability. And I think that when you talk about how journalism has died and you don't have people properly reporting, when you look at the fact since June of 2009, the Obama administration has created about 2.6 million jobs, but then there have been 3.1 million Americans that have gone on Social Security disability. As a matter of fact, in June, when you only had 80,000 private sector jobs created, you had 85,000 Americans going on Social Security disability. So my question is, just the same as you just brought up about unemployment benefits, is this program really going toward its intended purposes of helping individuals who are disabled, who cannot go out and work, or is this a matter of the 99 or 79 weeks of unemployment benefits when they are running out? Now you see people running to apply for Social Security disability funding, which in our district down in South Florida, you can see billboards with lawyers advertising how they can get you on Social Security disability.
Yeah, well, all right. The percentage of taxpayers, we know this, has never been lower. 49% of Americans pay no federal income tax, so they're not vested in the system. And I think this is what makes this a historic election or a tipping point election. And the question here is, when Republicans in any way in the past, when they discuss Social Security, and they even talk about preventing it from going bankrupt, it's the third rail. Then you get Paul Ryan throwing Granny over the cliff. Is it politically speaking not smart to talk about a program that obviously the American people like?
Well, first of all, I can be a politician and continue to tell the American people what they want to hear. But the truth is this: the actuaries and trustees for Social Security and Medicare in their fiscal year 2012 report said that Medicare will be bankrupt in 2024 and Social Security 9 years later in 2033. And we'll start seeing a degradation of benefits anywhere from 25 to 30%. So one of the most important things we need to do is to strengthen Social Security. And I believe in protecting and preserving it. That's why when I look at such political gimmicks such as this payroll tax cut, it is really a defunding of Social Security, and it's pushing it closer to the cliff. So I think that we've got to get Americans back to work. When you look at our workforce participation rate, it's at a 31-year low at only 63.7%. So we're driving people to be more dependent upon government. We're not driving people out there to open up those small business opportunities and promote our business development, production, and manufacturing in this country.
Look, if we look at unemployment, it is as 58.1%. It's the lowest since 1983. Long-term unemployment, the highest since the 1930s. So the numbers do speak for themselves. But let me go to the Social Security issue, because we know in the next 120 days what this campaign is about. It's about dogs on top of cars, class warfare. It's about Bain Capital. It's these red herrings about, bank accounts in the Caymans, war on women. So the question is, do you believe the American people, do you believe that they are willing to accept austerity measures, like in the case of Wisconsin, to balance the budget, to not borrow money, to not run up record deficits? Do you think they're prepared for that?
Well, I think that when the American people see a plan for our economic security, they will react as the voters did in Wisconsin. And I think that that's what we have to do. We have to draw a complete contrast between who we are as fiscal conservatives, constitutional conservatives, believing in limited government and fiscal responsibility, and individual sovereignty, which is so important. We cannot continue to go down the path of a president that believes that you can use the tax code for behavior modification, which is really the decision that came out of the Supreme Court, reference Obamacare. And then we also see today where the president believes that he can use the tax code to pick the winners and the losers based upon his own ideological agenda. So I think that we need to have the tough discussions with the American people and give them the truth, and not continue to knuckle down because liberal media wants to take their little soundbite rhetoric to try to intimidate you.
African-American unemployment, youth unemployment now is at 50%, and if you look at the black community, unemployment is at its highest level in 27 years.
14.4%.
14.4%. Also double digits in the Hispanic community. Overwhelmingly, the African-American community voted for Barack Obama. Polls show that he will win the majority of the African-American vote again. When you use the word slavery, that's the word that seems to have ignited this firestorm. What is your reaction to your critics for using that word?
I don't care about my critics. I understand that my country is at a very perilous situation, and I'm going to use the type of words that are necessary to get the attention of the American people. Look, Sean, I commanded a battalion in combat. I didn't sit down before we launched into Iraq and told that those men and women that we'd have nice cold water and warm chow every day and no one was going to shoot at us. I told them the truth, but I made sure that they were prepared to go into that combat zone. I want to make sure that the United States of America, that has been around for 236 years, as a beacon of liberty, freedom, and democracy, continues on for our subsequent generations, our children and grandchildren. And I really don't care about critics. I really don't care about the liberal media.
What would you do if you were Mitt Romney then, and the attacks that they're using against him and trying to distract from Obama's record? How would you defend against that?
Well, very simply, I would go back to the quote from Alexander the Great: fortune favors the bold. And the American people are looking for a bold plan of action that centers around our economic security, our energy security, and our national security. And I say, don't chase the little shining toy that the liberal media and the liberal progressives like to put out there, as you just talked about, war on women or some of the other means by which they want to divide us and pit us against each other in their goal of collective subjugation.
Yeah.
We've got to talk to the American people, and that's the bottom line, and that's what I would advise Governor Romney to do.
Last question. We know that the governor is, in fact, vetting women, according to his wife, Ann Romney. We know that Marco Rubio is under consideration. Governor Palin on this very program has said that she thinks you would be a great vice presidential choice.
Yeah.
Do you know if you might yourself be being vetted for that position of vice president?
Well, if someone is doing it, they have not let me know. And my biggest focus is to be a good congressional representative